and welcome to Season 3 of the Elixir Poetry Podcast, a podcast where we ask ordinary people from around the world to read a poem that means something to them, and we ask them why and how it speaks to their heart. Welcome again to the Elixir Podcast. Today we have the huge privilege of hosting a young Canadian French poet who lives in Tokyo called Laurier Tiernan, and he has written the most astounding book called 55 Ways to Survive, and he's written it in two languages, in French and in English. So today we are welcoming Laurier Tiernan to our show. Hello, Laurier.
Hello.
It's great that you could be here today.
Thank you for having me.
So would you like to read some of your poems to us today?
Sure. My first favorite poem of the book that I like to read for many poetry readings and interviews is In Case of Fire.
Mm-hmm.
In case of fire. In case of fire, break every window, pull out support beams, and piss on the ashes. Then toss all your clothing into the inferno, along with ID. We are not going backward.
Oh, amazing.
Thank you. You're very kind.
What made you write this poem?
It was a combination of things, but I was an activist from about the ages of 15 to about 34, up until my heart surgery for the condition I was born with. And I've since I was very young, I always felt a sense that many things had to change in the world to make the world a better place for many peoples and many demographics. And I've just gotten so tired over the years of being up against it in many ways in that struggle. And I guess this just came out of a sense of, as Leonard Cohen would have had it, a sense of bravado.
I love the
Um,
idea that you're throwing away all the shreds of your outer identity, that have been imposed by the outside world in a fire, if you like a bonfire of the vanities almost.
Thank you so much for bringing that. Yeah, a friend of mine bought me a collection of Leonard Cohen interviews, through which he was basically by the editor being made to tell his life story through all these interviews. But it wasn't, Mr. Cohen's intention before he passed away. I guess it was just that the editor of the book tried to craft an autobiography out of Leonard Cohen interviews, and in one of them he said that his dealing with apocalyptic matters, similarly to Bob Dylan, was just an attempt at some kind of bravado to give himself some kind of sense that he had some kind of minuscule bit of control in this world that seems so threatening and so dangerous so often. And it reminded me of the reasons that I like, or one reason that I like punk rock so much and have always liked punk rock so much. And so I guess that it was out of those two similar spirits that this poem came.
Mm, mm. Now you're very, very interesting to me because you write poetry in two languages, in both of
Yeah.
your maternal languages. And I
Yes.
find this absolutely fascinating. Do you
Mm.
find that when you write in both French and English, that somehow the resonances change when you're writing in French? Because I noticed that. And some of in your book, for our listeners, Laurier has written this wonderful book called 55 Ways to Survive, or Cinquante-cinq voies de survie. And every poem is different in French and English. It's quite astounding. I can't quite describe what I feel about that. But I guess, do you feel that you're writing from two different canons almost? How do
In
you
a way,
experience it?
in a way, certainly. Thank you for that question, Helen. Many people have asked me a similar question from different angles, and I've boiled it down to, I think, although I was raised bilingually, both in my home and in my education, I feel maybe that when I'm dealing with French, I'm dealing from the heart more, and with English, I'm dealing from the head more.
Oh, that's
Uh,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah, so I tend to feel more. My poetry from in French tends to be more emotional, and my poetry from the English side tends to be more cutting. And many of these poems were originally only in English when I submitted the manuscript to my publisher, and she suggested a fully bilingual manuscript. And I found when I was translating that some of the poems didn't come out very well from English to French. They lost a lot of their feel. And so I just decided to let myself convey the feel or my intention of each poem without being word for word. And
Yeah.
even one poem per se ended up, I decided to scrap it all together and just it was an anagrammic or a what is it called? I should know the name of this
An
type of poetry,
acrostics.
but
Was
and
it
yes,
an acrostic?
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so when I came to translating it, it wouldn't work at all. And so I thought I'll just write a brand new poem with the same intention.
Yeah. That is it is so interesting. It's almost like we have a different field of emotions in different
Mm,
languages.
hmm
And I find that such an attractive, lovely idea. It's very liberating, I feel, if you can function in another language. It's a bit like burning your identity. You can take on different parts of yourself that were lying hidden in your native tongue to find another tongue. It's fascinating, I find, and very, very liberating. It from my point of view, it really frees me from the shackles of myself to be working in another language. Yeah.
I really like what you're saying in that regard. And there's many, many, we could discuss that one element of things for days. As a spiritualist, I believe in past lives. And I have had many flashes of different past lives over the course of this incarnation. And some months ago, for the first time, as I was crossing a certain bridge to the east of here on my evening runs, I all of a sudden I crossed the bridge, and I remembered crossing it as a woman some decades, if not centuries ago.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, it came home hard to me that stepping into life in Japan and speaking Japanese actually helped me step more into the female elements of my soul,
Mhm.
rather than for many men or biological men, it would be stepping more into their masculine.
Mhm.
So I like what you're saying there, that stepping into different languages allows you to highlight or analyze different elements of yourself and that are outside of your daily portrayal of your current identity or whatever. Yeah.
I wonder if I'm also really interested in past lives, and
Hmm.
I think my husband thinks I'm half crazy, but
Ha,
I do have a belief in past lives, and do actually
nice.
think that I was a Scythian warrior.
Wow.
But and I've always loved the steppe, wherever I'm
Oh.
in open spaces. And I wonder
Hmm.
whether this what he would think of as an affliction, but conviction of mine is
Hmm.
is also connected with the feelings in the ways in which modern people of all stripes feel constrained in the designations that are applied to them in their lives. I always put this down to my firm belief that we should never have settled as humans. We should always have been
Hmm.
nomads, and we should always have been on the move and part of the landscape rather than the creators of the landscape. However, I'm digressing. Should we go on to your next poem?
Sure, sure. But I love what you were just saying because I have suffered from chronic depression off and on my whole life. And something that I've learned in recent years, I learned it indirectly being inspired by Beyonce because apparently she does interval running to get ready for her tours. And I thought maybe I would try that. And indirectly through that practice, I learned what you were just saying about being in motion keeps
Mm.
us connected to the
Yeah.
landscape and keeps us connected to the now. And so I like what you're saying there
Like
very
that, there is
much.
a poet, I can't remember his name, who wrote the great lines, I move to keep things whole, so
Wow.
it's very good. I can't remember his name, but I'll
Very good one.
find it sometime.
I'll have to Google it.
Yeah.
I'll have to Google it.
Okay, so your next poem.
Sure. Exception. Um, okay. This is kind of a timely one. I'm not from America, but it's timely for America. Exceptions. Exceptions. Born a sissy, bravado comes hard, but wartime squeezes the crazy right out, and circumstance leads me to make an exception. and tell you that queer kids shall dance on the innards of forces hell bent on erasing their spirits.
Mm. Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. Oh, this is so powerful. And it's so opportune at the time we're living in, isn't it? I'd like to tell you about someone I know who I met in Beijing, who was like a cabaret artist, trans woman who was Ukrainian, and I met her when she was performing in a nightclub. A few years later, when the war broke out in Ukraine, the next photograph I saw of them was wearing fatigues with a Kalashnikov and wearing a beard. And I saw them afterwards, and they said that their gender identity was not as important as their need to defend their national spirit in Ukraine. And then I saw them again as a nightclub singer at a party. Wow. So they're moving in between different identities according to need. According to need, it was quite incredible. Yeah, and I think it was, driven by this need to protect your right to have your own gender identity. So, of course, you're going to be fighting against the forces of Russia, which is so patently homophobic and patently anti any form of gender difference. So I think it's great.
It's quite, it's so obviously so that even Pet Shop Boys, who are one of my all-time favorite artists, have always shied, despite the fact that they always shied away from any kind of political statement, in recent years have taken huge political commentary against Russia and its political actions in that way. So I think if Pet Shop Boys, who have always tried to shy away from political statements, are actually stepping forward, then what Russia is doing must be particularly abhorrent.
Yes, absolutely. There's another poem of yours that I really loved in this collection called Justifié. Would you read that one called Justified?
Sure. 1 second. Justified. Maiming flesh of age-old trees, to scar it with odd flecks of ink, never quite feels justified, but somehow justifies my life.
I think that's really powerful. I think many, many poets feel that it's only through the act of writing that they can truly become themselves, that they can truly say who they are. I think that's a really super powerful poem.
Thank you, Helen. You're very kind.
I don't know which poem to ask you to read next because they're all so amazing. Your poetry book is like a map of the soul and of a journey to survival. And I really love the fact that poetry can be seen as a healing process for people. And what's amazing about you is you write in the first person, but actually everyone who reads your poem takes on those words as their own. And it's very, very, it's so expansive and so universal. Your situation and your journey to selfhood, actually, or to just being okay with yourself. And it's a very important moment, I think, because I don't know what it's like in Japan where you're living, but in Britain now, so many, particularly young people, are struggling to form a sense of themselves, to individuate fully, to, I don't know, for want of a better word, to self-actualize. And I do think it's through the creative arts that people can come into a sense of wholeness that they feel is lacking in their daily lives. So which poem would you like to read next?
The next one I'm going to read is actually a lyric sheet. And my publisher fought me on this before it went to print because the original draft of the book actually had 3 lyric sheets in it. And that was inspired by Leonard Cohen, who's a huge influence on me and often had his own lyric sheets in his poetry books. And I left this one in because it fit the arc of the book perfectly. And it's also a song from my acoustic duo Nature Airliner that I actually hope to release as a solo single next year in a different arrangement. So I'm going to read this lyric sheet to you. Letting go. I've come too far to turn back now. I've come too far to just give up. And when I'm feeling empty, An angel always fills my cup. Then my blood reveals a rose on the path to fame lined with bones, and the only road to growth is letting go. I had to stretch myself so far, I felt my skin become so thin. But even when I felt it break, I never wanted to give in. For the few times I changed course were the only ones where I lost hope, and the only road to growth is letting go. I'm questioning all that I think I know, and paling in comparison to gold. I'm losing my resistance to the cold, but there's a feeling in my soul when I start to lose sight of my goals that the only road to growth is letting go.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Thank you.
Really wonderful. I really love that image of the cold, losing your resistance to the cold.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that if you follow the paths that other people set out for you, then this is the road to doom. That you have to do things from a sense of your own truth, if you like, and not to be too Megan about things. But I do think that's really, really important, especially for artists. So what about another poem? Would you like to read us another poem?
Sure. You. I crawl now from the wreckage, constructed by myself, a stage set I erected when I knew not I was blessed. I leave it all behind now, to start my life anew, and glowing in the distance, all I can see is you. You oversaw the drafting of all the master plans, and I am told that all of this sits squarely in your hands, and never for a moment did I doubt that this was true, for ever since I first drew breath, I only reached for you.
Wow. Okay, Laurier, what made you write that poem? That's incredible.
That was largely because I was raised Catholic, and I had something of an apostasy when I was 19 because I had a nervous breakdown and had to drop out of college. And in that moment, everything went silent in the spirit world for me. And I grew up not only Catholic, but was growing up realizing without having it explained to me that I was a hereditary psychic medium. I have a great grandparent on both sides of my family tree that were psychics that I'd never met. It only came to the light of day when I was going through my journey, and all of a sudden, as my parents saw fit, they started to tell me, "Oh, you had a great grandparent like that." But that was it. Only started to get clearer after my apostasy when I was 19, and I started thinking, well, if the well went dry, I don't accept this. There's got to be something else. And so I started reading about Buddhism, and I started reading about Wicca, and I became a practicing witch, not a black witch, but a white witch. I started exploring all kinds of different avenues of spirituality. And it brought me back to the idea of a source, that although what I thought went silent was the patriarchal ideologies that I had been raised with, but that something that's never left me my whole life is a connection to spirit. I'm currently a spiritualist. I belong to the Spiritualist National Union of the UK. So although, much like David Bowie would have said in his interviews when he was alive, that I would not care to put a precise definition on what the creator is, I do believe essentially there is undeniably a spirit world and a source. And it's been that the theme and the essence of this poem is the fact that one of the main things that kept me going all these years, except for my creative disciplines and my pursuit of my artistic potential, was the pursuit of that connection to spirit and to the source.
I think this is wonderful. And I was also brought up a Catholic. And if it's okay with you, I'm going to read you one of my poems, which is almost identical to your poem. It's called All the Steps.
Nice.
All the steps I have taken and taking all throughout the length of each and every day are footfalls slowly stepping out and through and past and out of the maze where I've been lost since the beginning of my time in the garden, in my life of endless wandering paths and wizened razor shrubbery, All the steps I've ever taken, damn it, have been leading, always are, now, today, now and always, leading straight and true to you.
Oh, wow!
So it's the same message, right? It's the same.
It's amazing. It is beautiful in its depth and in its substance. And and the conclusion and the journey of the poem is very similar to mine.
Isn't it? Yeah. I think, I mean, we've, we could talk about this for hours, but I think even for people who are not, like myself and you, who are not practicing Catholics, I think it's very hard to find a place in our very Anglo-Saxon Protestant publishing world because what we think of as sort of a natural leaning towards the sublime is looked upon as rather strange, rather, and I don't know. I always feel as if I'm writing from within a Catholic tradition in a world that doesn't understand Catholic ideas. So, I mean, that's just my feeling about this. But yeah.
As you and I were speaking of something similar before we did the interview, before we started recording, I was telling another friend some months ago that, I mean, this is might go without saying for many people, but when I call certain beings watchers or angels or whatever, it's just my viewing certain spiritual entities through the language I've been taught and through the references that I've been given, because I have no others. It doesn't negate their existence. It just means that these are the words I'm using. It's like if we take a banana to Japan, and or if somebody had taken a banana to Japan a few hundred years ago when they hadn't seen any bananas, it doesn't mean the bananas don't exist because the Japanese person puts a new word to it. I mean, the word for banana here is banana. But anyway, I'm digressing. But what I'm trying to say is it doesn't mean just because we use different words does not negate the existence of the beings. It's just we're just needing to use the words that we have. Any given person needs to use the words that they have to communicate their experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, you have a poem where you mention watchers. Would you like to read that as your final poem?
Sure. Yeah, that's one of my favorites in this book, actually, Cemented. Okay, here we go. Cemented. I come now for the secrets that they hid from the people, on top of which they built their empire's holy house. I come now for the laws that bind us all together, since they did their best to ensure all faith was lost. I call upon the watchers who never stood behind them and who have never ceased to stand guard over me. I solemnly proclaim that their days are now numbered, cemented in this cycle, just like the rising seas.
Oh, this is just incredible.
Thank you so much.
I love the declaratory style. I love it. There's also something quite biblical about the way that you put these ideas across, and it's something that I think you and I have in common. You know, this way of making statements, which again I sort of associate with the Catholic tradition, really, or at least with a sort of dramatic tradition. You know, but I really love that. I would love it, Laurier, if you could read us a couple of your poems in French so that our listeners can hear just how beautiful they are in French as well. That'd be really nice.
Sure. Let's read the one I just read, cemented in French. Cimenté. Cimenté. Je lève le voile sur les secrets qu'ils ont cachés au peuple et sur lesquels ils ont construit le temple de leur empire. Je dévoile les lois qui nous lient tous ensemble, puisqu'ils ont fait de leur mieux pour s'assurer qu'on perde toute foi. J'en appelle aux anges gardiens qui n'ont jamais soutenu ces types et qui n'ont jamais cessé de veiller sur moi. Je proclame solennellement que leurs jours sont comptés, cimentés dans ce cycle comme le niveau des mers montant.
Yeah, that's really lovely.
Thank you.
And will you read one other? Which one would you like to read?
Sure. Is there one in particular that you'd like me to read in French?
How?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Justifier. Mutilant la chair d'arbre pour l'attacher de mouchettes d'encre, ne paraît pas justifiable, mais semble justifier ma vie.
Yeah. This is wonderful. And I really, I do, as I keep saying to you, I see writing and poetry in particular as a really powerful tool for healing. And there is something almost mystical about the idea of inscribing meaning through writing. This is why I lament the loss of signatures. That we no longer have signatures, and I'm trying to write about that now, because that used to, even for people who are very semi-literate, because they would write their name on things all of the time. They would somehow stamp their identity on things that were beyond the control of the state or the control of technology. So, anyway, that's just a sideline there, really. Laurier,
I do love what you're saying, because I was telling many people in recent months that much like Leonard Cohen, I believe that words are sacred. And I've been reading a bit about Hermetic lore in recent years. And I was reading about sigils, about angel sigils and stuff like that. And I all of a sudden, when you were speaking about that, about the signatures a few minutes ago, I was thinking that ties into that. It's the motion, it's the power of the motion of the word that is sacred and conveys spirit, conveys an energy from spirit, from the source.
Absolutely.
And it's definitely powerful and beautiful.
Yeah. So for our listeners, I'm going to post on our website the poems that Laurier has read for us, but I will also put there a link so that you can go and buy his book. Because I guarantee you it'll be an amazing experience. I really, really encourage you to read this wonderful poet. And I'm hoping we'll be able to get him to come to Britain. And yes, his book is called 55 Ways to Survive by Laurier Tiernan. Okay, 55 voies de survie. So, yeah, I think it's wonderful. Laurier, thank you so much for coming to do a podcast with us. I've really enjoyed it. And we'll hopefully be hearing lots more from you in the future.
Yes, I hope to go over to the UK next year. But otherwise, I hope to see anybody who's interested in my work anywhere in the world.
Okay. If you're a regular listener and are enjoying the podcast, it would mean the world to me if you could hit the follow button on your podcast app. And if you have a moment, leave a review and a 5-star rating. Remember, you can find the poems that feature in each episode on my website, helenwing.com. If you'd like to support the production costs of our Elixir Poetry Podcast, please feel free to buy me a coffee. Thanks for listening.